believes I can't sleep.
It's time to listen to Courtney at last on the Ramblings of an Insomniac podcast.
Hello, y'all. It's Courtney Perry. This is episode 84 of the Ramblings of an Insomniac. Hello, good morning, or good afternoon, or evening, whatever the case may be in your neck of the woods. I'm sorry, you guys. I've been crying. I am a hot mess. I look like I have been partying all night, and my makeup is all down my face. I look like ridiculous. I look awful. I've got mascara just half down my face, and my eyes are all red, and it's great. It's an awesome look. It's pretty cute. So that's what's been keeping me up, being sad and a little sprinkled with some depression, sprinkled with some anxiety, sprinkled with a little stress, and then topped off with no sleep. And that's that's a recipe for just good stuff right there. That's a recipe for a productive day. So on that note, why have I been crying and depressed and all of that good stuff? My life is just kind of a hot mess these days, and it's a struggle. Trying to navigate staying positive and happy so that you don't let the depression and anxiety and stuff consume you, and staying positive and happy for your family and for the times that I have to work. Trying to work when you have a lot on your mind is difficult. Trying to suck it up and put on a happy face when you want nothing more than to go crawl in a corner and cry, or punch a pillow or something. It's pretty difficult sometimes. And that's what I've been having to do. My counselor has moved, so I don't have anyone to talk to right now. And it's been difficult because my partner and I are just having a lot of struggles. And I always go back and forth on the things that I want to share and the things that I want to talk about. I'm not like a Kardashian. I don't like spilling every single detail of my life and every aspect of my life. I like some privacy. But at the same time, I also want to talk about stuff so that if anybody out there is going through like similar situations, then you can go, okay, I understand. I've been through that too. And you can identify. And so I kind of go back and forth on how much I want to talk about. And, I don't know what people want to listen to. I don't know what people want to hear. People don't want to hear a sob story. They don't want to hear someone going on and on about the details of their life. But then I'm like, maybe they do. Maybe people out there, like I said, maybe people want to connect with somebody or know that they're not crazy, that someone else is going through the same thing that they're going through. So I'll say this. I shared in a previous podcast that my fiance was unfortunately had to spend some time in prison for something he did not do. There's about a pile of evidence proving that he did not do this. And our justice system is extraordinarily flawed and corrupt. So we had to, when all is said and done, by the time this started and by the time it ends, it'll be 13 years of his life, my life, our family's life because it has affected everybody. It's affected everybody in our family and him, obviously him more than anybody else. But it's affected all of us. Oh my God, my dogs are being obnoxious. It's affected all of us, and it'll be 13 years. It'll be 3 years before he was put in prison, 5 years of being in prison, and then he's supposed to be on 5 years of probation afterwards. Hopefully, that'll end up only being a year and a half. Oh my gosh, my dogs are obnoxious. Anyway, hopefully it's like 5 years of probation afterwards. And this has just affected our lives extraordinarily. Like, oh my gosh. But it has consumed our lives in aspects that you probably you wouldn't even have thought of. And we've been struggling. I mean, when he first got home, it was very difficult. And unfortunately, I've said this before, and it's very true, but unfortunately, there are a lot of people in prison for things they didn't do. There are definitely people in prison for things they did do, and they should have to do their time. But even the people that have committed the crimes that they're in prison for, our prison system is incredibly flawed. It needs it needs to be revamped. It needs an overhaul. It doesn't do any good. And the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the stats. There's reoffenders. Most of the time when you get put in prison, there's reoffenders. So they go to prison again, and they're just part of the system. And they're just this revolving door of people going to prison, getting out, and then going back in again. And it's because we need better mental health. We need more counselors. We need counselors and doctors and psychiatrists to all work together to be able to diagnose people a lot sooner than later. We need people to start going to counseling at a younger age. Because unfortunately right now, trying to solve like the homeless population or all the people that are already part of the system is not really going to work, unfortunately. It's like trying to plug a dam with your pinky. So it needs to start from the bottom, which is when they're young, when someone is young, they need to be properly diagnosed with depression or anxiety or bipolar or schizophrenia, or if they have any type of mental issues, like if they're a sociopath, whatever it is, that needs to be diagnosed sooner than later. The younger, the better. And even if a teenager is a normal teenager that has normal teenage issues, they still need someone to talk to so that those normal teenage issues don't turn into addiction or depression or all of that. And unfortunately, there aren't a lot of counselors. And in prison, you get to talk to a counselor once a year. And that counselor doesn't really give a shit about the prisoners. They don't really counsel you. It's for a half an hour once a year. What good is that going to do? And then they send people that have been in prison away from the real world. My fiance didn't have windows to look out of. They had these teeny tiny, narrow, about 3-inch wide, very long windows, but they had that milky glass where you can't actually see out of it. You can't actually see anything. And it doesn't let a lot of light in. So he didn't get to breathe air, never got to go outside. He was on the 5th floor of a building. All the murderers and rapists got to go outside. They got to lift weights outside. They got to run outside on a track. They got to be outside. They got to play guitar. But then the people that have done little minor things didn't get to go outside. They were on the 5th floor. So all the murderers are on the bottom floor where they could escape a lot easier. They could get out a lot easier on the first freaking floor. And then the people that have done barely anything, little petty crimes, were up on the 5th floor, didn't have windows to look out of, couldn't even look outside to see a tree, didn't get oxygen, didn't get anything to breathe other than the inside of a building with 100 and something men. And in the summer, their air conditioning didn't work. So it'd be 90 degrees outside. Now imagine how hot it is inside with like 150 men, no air conditioning, and a bunch of security officers in a very small space with no windows and no fresh air whatsoever for 5 years. No sunlight, not being able to feel breeze on you, not being able to look outside and see a tree, not being able to look outside and see other people. They don't even allow you to have fucking windows because they said that there was girls that would go down to the parking lot and like flash their boobs up to the prisoners. Okay, that doesn't mean you take away the windows from the prisoners. It means you tell the people that are doing that to get the fuck off the property and you shoo them away. You tell them, hey, you're not allowed to be down in the parking lot flashing your boobs to all the prisoners. You don't take away sunlight and fresh air. I don't care. I understand that if you're some terrible, horrible person who has killed people, that you probably lost your privileges to sunlight and to, fresh air. But those are the people that did get to go outside. The people that committed like tax fraud didn't get daylight or windows. That doesn't even make sense. But our system's so flawed that when he was accused of this, he had to wait 3 years before he even got to have a trial. And in that 3 years, they said, we're going to put you in jail for those 3 years, or you can be out on jail if you pay a bail. And then you're going to have a curfew and you're not allowed to go to certain places and you're not allowed to do certain things. And we're going to put an ankle bracelet on you so that we know where you are at all times. And we're going to have a pre-trial person come to your home once a month and look through everything. That was before he even had a trial to say if he was innocent or guilty. So before they even knew if he was guilty or not, they just accused him of something. Accused him of it. Doesn't mean he did it. He had 3 years of his life that he was penalized for something that he didn't even do. Then they told him, either you plead guilty to this or we'll throw you in jail for 20 years. And he's like, but I didn't do this and I'm not going to plead guilty to something that I didn't do. And they said, well, if we put you on a juror, there's just enough evidence that they just might convict you. And if they do convict you, you're doing 20 years. Whereas if you plead no contest, then we'll reduce it to 5 years. Well, he was scared shitless. And I can't tell you all the details and I can't tell you the entire story, but the FBI and the police department and our justice system has a way of making you say that you are guilty when you're not, or bullying you and scaring people. They do this all the time, all the time. This is a very common thing. They just want to throw someone in jail. They don't give a fuck if that person's actually guilty or not. And they will sit there and berate you and berate you and berate you. And they're our government. They're our FBI. They are cops. So people get scared and intimidated by the government because they're scary, because they will fuck your day up. And that's what they did. So he was like, shit, I don't want to go to prison for 20 years. I also don't want to say that I'm guilty for something that I didn't do. So he pled no contest. And they said, okay. The judge, though, after looking over everything, even said, I don't know that you did this, but unfortunately at the time, Jeff Sessions had just made a mandatory minimum So he unfortunately had to do the mandatory minimum, which was 5 years. Now, during the pretrial, he had to go through extensive psychological tests with an actual certified psychologist. We have the report. The psychologist said he did not do what he was accused of. I don't think he did this. The pretrial person that used to come to our house also said, I've been doing this for 30 years. He doesn't fit the profile. I don't think he did this. She ended up being amazing. I'm not going to say her name. She was awesome. And didn't believe that he did this. Then when he went to prison, prison is a very odd beast. It is very, very, very segregated, very racist. The blacks stay with the blacks, the whites stay with the whites, the Hispanics stay with the Hispanics. You're not allowed to hang out with, if you're white, you do not hang out with someone that's Hispanic or black. If you're black, you don't hang out with someone that's white or Hispanic. You just don't mix races in prison. Mitch somehow, or my fiance somehow got to go around and talk to people of all races. He ended up getting his paralegal certificate, master paralegal certificate. He ended up helping a bunch of prisoners there that wanted to go back to school. He helped them get their GED. He helped one kid get into, was it University of Idaho or Idaho State, something like that. So while he was there for something he did not do, he helped others. He even started a physics club, of all things. Yes, a physics club. That reminds me of 16 Candles when he's all a physics club. Anyway, a physics club in prison, of all things, because he would sit there and be working on physics because I sent him physics textbooks, and people were like, what are you doing? What is this guy over here doing? Why is he working on physics? And then they would come over and kind of question what he was doing. And then they'd be interested and he'd start talking to them. And then that happened so often that finally he's like, hey, do you guys want me to show you some stuff? And they were like, okay. So while he was there, he made use of his time in a productive way. And all of this, though, happened during COVID. So then I wasn't allowed to visit him for 3 out of the 5 years. I was kept away. And he was kept away from everybody. I got to have 2 15-minute phone calls a day. And we could email, but of course, everything is read. I didn't care. We said whatever we wanted, and whoever wanted to read it, that's great. And of course, phone calls are monitored, so you don't get privacy. And then when you are allowed to visit, you're sitting right next to a boatload of other people. I mean, to where you're touching elbows. You are literally touching elbows with people, and you're touching knees. You're sitting so close that my knees were touching his knees. My elbows were touching people next to me. So you can't have a private conversation. You're not allowed to hug. Then he gets out of prison. So now that's 8 years of his life that has been the 3 years of pretrial plus the 5 years in prison. Then he gets out, and now, like I said, there's another 5 years of probation where he has to have someone come out and has no curfew or anything, but places he's not allowed to go, things he's not allowed to do, not allowed to get on the internet. How the fuck do you get a job, by the way? And they were like, by the way, you have to have a full-time job. Now, his license expired while he was in prison. They have yet to allow him to make an appointment to go to the DMV, so he doesn't have a license. That means I or somebody has to drive him around. The place that we live does not have a bus system or taxi cabs, believe it or not. Plus, taxis are expensive, and they're not allowed to do Ubers in the town that I live in. They've banned Ubers, which I don't know how that's even legal, but at any rate, so that leaves me to have to take him to all of his mandatory appointments. And then they're like, get a job, but you're not allowed to be on the internet. So how the fuck are you supposed to look for a job? Because people don't put jobs in the paper anymore. People don't put jobs in newspapers anymore. And how do you apply for a job? People don't. So I'm supposed to take him around to every single business and say, hey, can I get an application? They just make it, and then they're like, well, I don't care. You're not allowed to get on the internet. Okay, well, then how the hell am I supposed to find a job? And you won't let me get my license right now, so how am I supposed to get to and from my job? I don't know. Work it out, though, and if you don't do it, you're going back to prison. What kind of shit is that? You don't throw someone back in jail because you are doing everything you can to make it impossible for them to succeed. Why would you want people that just got out of jail to not succeed? Wouldn't you want them to be upstanding members of society? Wouldn't you want them to be trying to be better? Wouldn't you want to set them up for success so that they don't go back into the system, so that they don't drain society of, like they don't get on welfare again? They don't drain the system. Wouldn't you want them to better themselves so that they can contribute to society? Wouldn't you want them to have access to counseling so that they can get better, so that they can get help? Nope, that's not what our government wants. Our government wants us all to be stupid motherfuckers that just go into the system so all of us taxpayers can keep paying a boatload of taxes to a bunch of people that like 75% of them just wind up right back in the fucking system again. And then it's just this vicious cycle. The government doesn't give a shit about people succeeding. They want Black people in particular to stay stupid and on welfare. They want white people to look like we're racist motherfuckers, and they want to pin us all against each other. And they want to keep us stupid and uneducated so that we don't know what's going on, so we don't know what kind of shady business they're up to. Because God forbid we are all smart enough to figure out the bullshit that our government is pulling. And God forbid we all want to try to get good jobs and succeed and educate ourselves. God forbid we have any type of, we read a book and we learn and we start realizing what our history is, what our past is, what actually happened in history, the real story of our history. They're trying to now take that away. They're trying to rewrite history and make it how they want it to look, so that they can keep us pinned against each other. So they want us all to hate each other, be ignorant, and be beaten down and kicked and stupid so that we can stay on welfare and just keep relying on the terrible, corrupt system while they sit around and eat popcorn and watch us all tear each other apart and kill each other, so they can all control us. Richmond from Richmond. That is such a true song that has resonated across the world, not just here in the States, but everywhere. Because it is true. Politicians suck. The government sucks. It needs to be disassembled. What's keeping me up is the fact that our country doesn't give a shit about its people. Not at all. When I say our country, I mean our government. Our government does not care. And the prison system is just extraordinarily flawed. Half of the people in prison probably wouldn't be there at all if they had a two-person home, a mom and a dad, if they had good education, if they actually went to a school that gave a shit, if they actually knew. Nowadays, it seems like kids are graduating when they don't even know how to read. And the whole no child left behind thing is bullshit, because there should be children left behind if they don't know how to read or they don't know basic math. Then they should be left behind. They should be left behind until they do know how to read, until they can do basic math, until they do know some history. And I agree with Vivek Ramaswamy. I think that the school board and the union needs to be torn apart, needs to be done away with. and that we definitely need to start with getting back to our roots. If you are an illegal immigrant and you want to be a citizen of the United States, you have to take a test and know basic history, basic civics. Most Americans don't even know basic history and civics. Most Americans have no idea anything about the Constitution. They don't know half of our history. But if you are someone that wants to move to this country legally, you have to take a test on that. Yet meanwhile, our own American citizens graduate high school and don't know shit. That's sad. I've gone to other countries where they know more about our country than we do. Myself included. I'm going to include myself. I admit I'm pretty damn ignorant when it comes to a lot of our history. I just now started reading more because I'm like, wow, I'm hearing a lot of stuff. Is this true? I'm hearing a lot of different things from a lot of different people. I need to know what's going on. So I started educating myself, and I realized how stupid I am when it comes to history. But we're allowing kids to graduate high school when they don't even know how to read. That should not be allowed. So now, no wonder our prison system is overflowing. We have a bunch of idiots running around that also could be bipolar, schizophrenic, have PTSD, have God knows what issues, and then those aren't being addressed. They're not on the right medication, whether it's homeopathic or medication. They haven't had access to counseling. They haven't had a good education. They may only have one parent in the house, and that one parent they have may be on crack. Maybe they're abusive. Maybe that one parent is an amazing parent, but it's only one parent and they can only do so much. So obviously there's a lot of stuff that goes into the reasons that people go to prison. But what ticks me off is our prison system wants to keep them in prison. Everything is set up so that people just keep going to prison. We're not doing anything to help the people that could potentially, if you see a kid that seems to be struggling, we don't seem to be doing enough for people right now. We just don't have enough counselors. We don't have enough psychiatrists to go around, and people don't have the money to see them. So even if we did have a lot of counselors, enough counselors for people to talk to, a lot of people don't have money to see counselors. They're expensive. They're anywhere from $90 to $200 an hour. And nowadays, when a gallon of milk is $8, who the fuck has $90 to $200 to see a counselor? Meanwhile, people that claim that they can't find a job, or people that claim that they're disabled, or people that claim that they can't work, are just sitting around eating everything, getting access to all kinds of shit. How messed up is that? So people that are really, really working hard and really trying don't have access to anything, are getting taxed up the ass. And then the lazy people are getting lazier and getting everything, getting fed like big, fat, happy cows. Just mom, 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 mom. I'm going to sit here and eat. I'm going to eat. I'm not going to work. And I'm going to complain about it. And then you guys all work and pay my taxes and pay me to sit here and eat and pretend like I can't work. It's so fucking annoying. I'm sick and tired of working my ass off so that other people can sit and reap all the rewards. That is some bullshit. I'm tired of innocent people getting raked through the coals and not getting a break. I'm tired of our government being the most evil, malicious people and loving it. They relish in our misery. What kind of sadistic fuck sits there and sees our country in shambles and does not care? Like I said, it's not really Biden's fault because he has dementia. He doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. He's not the one running this country. He and Kamala are not running this country. We all know this. It's some other person or group of people like the big pharmas, like Bill Gates, like JP Morgan, that are running the show. It's definitely keeping me up. And you can see it on my face. I look like a hot mess. And it is definitely causing me some insomnia. Rich Man North of Witchman came out at a time when I think we all were like, fuck yeah. No wonder that song hit the charts immediately. It is the truest song ever written, and everyone can identify it with it, whether you are Republican or Democrat. Does not matter. That's what makes the song so great. It's about our government being piece of shit. Whether it is a Democratic government or Republican government, they both suck. Our government sucks. It has no desire to serve the people. They serve themselves. It's extraordinarily frustrating when your own country has turned its back on it. We've turned our backs on each other, and our government has kicked us to the curb. We're in a sad state. We're in a really sad state. And I hope to God this somehow starts turning around, because I think everybody is just exhausted and burnt out, you know? So, how's your country doing? Hong Kong, how are you doing? Canada, Australia, India, Germany, France, UK. What are y'all doing? How's it going? How are you as a person doing? How are you doing mentally? Just checking in with everybody. I hope that whatever is going on in your life right now, you can somehow find peace. And if everything's going well for you, then that's amazing. I'm so glad. So, these are some things that have been keeping me up, and I'm going to try today. I'm going to try my best to look for the good, and I'm going to go focus on seeing my grandson and my grandkids and focus on that and try to take a breath. I need to find a solution. I need to be able to vent, get it off my chest, and then control the things I can control. And the things I cannot control, I need to let go. So that is what I'm going to try to do today. I hope that the rest of your day goes well. I appreciate so much every one of you. And thank you so much for listening to episode 84 of The Ramblings of an Insomniac.